Today, we're looking at an orange ink by Monteverde Mandarin Orange. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. And if you like videos like that, I would invite you to subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram, and there's timestamps down below so that if you are in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Italics Chaplin's tankards with an oblique italic nib to write for the day and to take my notes for this video. For the first writing sample, I use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in bottle form, and they come in bottles like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It has some minor shading that's going on. There is some shading that's there, just not tons. The extra fine is noticeably lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading in the writing, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still some very nice shading with 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show color variation far left to far right, and we do get it in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Extra fine is noticeably lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is by far the darkest tone on the paper, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 21 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and I didn't get any. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading, just spots of a little bit lighter or a little bit darker, not a ton. Extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. Again, spots of shading occur, not a ton. You look at the K in quick and you see that it went from lighter into darker. You look at the second it's there, just not a ton. 5 seconds to dry. Medium, by far the darkest tone on the page, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine shows color variation that we did get. The medium shows none, and we got none. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that there is a very light orange in this, and there's a very dark red. So we have two distinct tones, but also right at the very line. It's like a grayish line right there. It's odd, but that's what I see. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And that grayish line is just a little bit more pronounced here. Now you see a little bit of that orange push up, and you see the very bright red. The orange and red look unaffected at all from being allowed to sit for 10 minutes. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, it did very well 3 days later being highlighted. It makes me feel safe using it in a note-taking situation if I wanted to go back and highlight. Now the water is starting to lift and move a lot of this ink, but not all of this ink. No, water was all that it took for me to get it out of my pen. If it's not enough for you, you can see that the pen flush is starting to reactivate and break this ink up, pulling it off, so you shouldn't have to go any farther than that. The 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper, but you're not going to need that for your pen. I test viscosity or flow with a tilt test that I'll link down below in a description or in a card. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Mandarin Orange has a viscosity of 3.65, making this a very dry ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples. Now for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Mandarin Orange has an average dry time of 10 seconds. So with it being very dry, it also dries rather quickly. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Mandarin Orange, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice purple and chose Noodler's Purple Dream. The second writing sample is done on Fabriano, Northbooks, and a memoranda pad like I used when I was in the Marines. Here we're looking at Fabriano paper. And we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading. 4 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than everything else here. It's only a little darker than the stub, but it is darker. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both are showing us no color variation, and we're not getting it. But that's a little more absorbent of paper. Northbooks, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. Medium is by far the darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 1 second to dry still. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we're not getting any. And last up is a memoranda pad. These old cheap notebooks like I used in the Marines, and we get no bleeding, no ghosting. This is a cheap manufactured paper that I like to go ahead and test because it does surprisingly well. This is the medium at the top with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Extra fine is lighter than the medium with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us no color variation and we didn't get any, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Monteverde's Mandarin Orange? I think this is a very nice ink on the page that shades very nicely. It truly is a pleasure to look at. Now, I don't find orange inks to be great for a whole page of writing. I love using them in complement on the page. I enjoyed this one so much after the sample, I purchased a bottle. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Now, drier fines or drier mediums put down an okay tone, but a wet medium or wet broad really puts down a great tone with some amazing shading. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.